right, welcome to my 2020 Alberta mule deer hunt. So instead of getting right in the action, I thought I would be better served by setting some context first. So, number one, I'm in Alberta, as I already mentioned. I've never actually hunted in Alberta before, so this is super cool. It's also in the prairies, so it's in the southeast corner of Alberta, and I've never really hunted. I've hunted some flat ground down in Arizona, but it was more like flat valley bottoms surrounded by a bunch of hills. Where we're going is almost like an inverted landscape. Like it's flat with like coulees and canyons dug into it. So that's gonna be new for me, so I'm excited to kind of face that challenge and see how I can adapt to that different terrain. Number two, this is a guided hunt. I don't typically film a lot of guided hunts on this channel. I don't have anything against guided hunts. I think they're great. I just tend to do more DIY hunts because I like figuring stuff out on my own and I like the challenge. And I was having I was thinking about this on the drive out here. And Steve Rinella's brother has this great thing calls it the Hunter Purity Scale. And this is essentially an individual scale that each hunter has, whether they're conscious of it or not, about what they think makes a good hunt, for them. Some people like road hunting bears on Vancouver Island. Other people like backpack sheep hunts 20 miles into the wilderness. I think everybody's got to figure that out for themselves. And as long as it's ethical and legal, I don't have any problems with it. With that being said, I did have to unfollow a shitload of people over the last 6 to 12 months on Instagram because they're just like, I don't mean to throw them under the bus, but okay, Joe Rogan. All the guy ever does is hunt big private ranches in Utah and smokes big bulls. And it's like, that's cool, man, if that's your thing. That's not my thing. And then he kind of writes these big passages about how it was hard earned, and it's like, was it though? Was it, Joe? Let's be fucking honest about this, man. You had your pick of the litter and you just went out and you waited until he gave you a shot. You took it. Somebody else processed your fucking meat for you. It got sent home and there you go. Anyways, I don't want to go off on a big rant. All I'm saying is that for me, I'm down with a guided hunt when there's still an element of challenge. And that may be different for everybody. So I'm not going to shit on anybody here. For me, this is a bit of a bucket list hunt for me. For the last 4 years now, I've watched video of other people doing this hunt, and I've watched a shitload of people fail on this hunt, and I've watched a few people succeed. I'm going with primitive outfitting, and if any of you follow Aaron Snyder, that kind of crew of individuals, Snyder comes up here every year and hunts with Lander. He can't this year because of COVID. And that's what originally put this hunt on my map, because I loved how difficult the stalking element was. And no matter how good the guide is, he can't help you on the stalk. You're kind of on your own there. So that's what I'm excited about. Yeah, so I just kind of want to share that, some of my thoughts on guided hunts. I'm all for it, as long as it ticks whatever boxes you're looking for a hunt to tick. And this one, for me, it's still going to be very challenging. I'm still super excited. Lander's turned into a good buddy. Ryan, a guy who's going to spend a lot of time with me while I'm up there. I've met him before. He's a super cool guy. So after I just did this kind of big epic half solo elk hunt, it's going to be nice to just hang out with some dudes and do a hotel show and kind of have some camaraderie and fellowship, and at the same time have some struggle and have a really challenging opportunity to go after hopefully a couple stud bucks. So anyways, as usual, I'll do my best to be as transparent as possible and film as much of it as I can, and I hope you guys dig it. All right, let's get into it. All right, welcome to the morning of day one. We are in Alberta and we're trying to find some mule deer. So, a lot of glassing on this hunt, and a lot of glassing from the trucks. You can hear them running in the background right now. Still super early, haven't seen shit, drove out in the dark, and we're basically just trying to glass these coulees and kind of flat areas, trying to find some bucks moving around. And the whole game plan of this hunt is to glass the buck until he beds down and then make a game plan, and more than likely have like an early afternoon to late afternoon stock, and most of the mornings are just spent glassing. So probably won't be a whole lot to update on. Hopefully I can get some phone scope footage of some bucks, but other than that, just sit behind the glass and see what we can find. I apologize if this is just obliterated with wind noise, but there's not a lot I can do. It is absolutely howling out here. So we're midway through the day. We drove around in glass till about 11, and then from 11 till now, we've been walking the edges of coulees and just really taking our time and creeping up the edges and trying to glass the walls of the coulees. We just turned up a small buck, definitely not a shooter, but there might be a second one with him. And if there's no other bucks right now, it might make sense just to put a stock on this buck just to get some practice in this particular terrain. So I'll try and get some footage of the buck, but I didn't bring my spotter with me. And it's a little bit tricky in these coulees. Oh, I think I just spotted something, hang on. Yeah, I just spotted a bunch of does. I'll do what I can, but it's a little bit tricky in this terrain to get any good footage. So, we'll see. I'll give you another update soon. Alright, so we got a little closer and put eyes on the buck. He's just a little 2x3. Ryan's gone up and around to take a kind of different angle to see if he's with any other deer. And then we're probably going to pull out of here and go look at a different coulee, or maybe go check out another glassing spot. We'll see what time it is when we pull out of here, but not worth making a play on this guy right now. So as we were moving around the edge of that last coulee to get a better look at that 4x4, we bumped into the first little 3x3. He ran up the hill, blew out another buck, blew out another doe, blew out the buck we were looking at, and just a whole pile of deer poured out of the coulee. But they only ran a couple hundred yards, and then they came back into the coulee further up. So now we're making our way along the edge, again trying to peer back over, see if we can pick them back up. None of them really looked like shooter bucks, but I think it behooves us to at least really make sure that one of them wasn't a shooter buck, and that see if we can find him again. All right, day one is over, and I just want to shoot a little recap video. So, learned a couple lessons today. 1, there are more deer in the coulee than you think. And 2, if you think you're going slowly, go slower. So, not a big deal, but definitely, I wouldn't even say messed up a stock. I mean, we were looking at deer, they weren't really the age class that we're looking for, and they ended up blowing out, not a big deal. So essentially we kind of had 2 semi-opportunities at deer today. One was clearly too young. The second one may have been an appropriate age class and a mature enough buck, but we didn't really get a good shot. And that was when we learned that the first buck was closer to the second buck than we thought, and we were trying to get that second look. Blew out the first buck. He bounced into the second buck. They bounced into another buck with another doe, and the kind of whole coulee kind of exited. So anyways, that's kind of what the week is going to look like. Lots of glassing in the morning, making for a play in the afternoon, a lot of, creeping up to the coulee edges and trying to glass inside, see them before they see us, and hopefully find a decent buck by himself. That would really be the kind of the ultimate setup. So really tired today. I think the drive kind of knocked the shit out of me yesterday, and then only slept 4 or 5 hours last night, and it just kind of hit me like a brick wall on the way home that I'm nuked. So gonna eat a shitload of food, get a good nice long sleep, and get back after it tomorrow morning. Welcome to the morning of day 2. It's not quite as cold today, which is nice. It was brutal yesterday. So essentially the game plan for the morning is I hiked all the way into this series of coulees and draws, and I'm basically on the back side of a knife ridge looking into a big bowl. I can't see anything from where I am right here, but nobody can see me either. And the goal is I'm just gonna creep up over the top, staircase my way down in glass, come back and kind of repeat that until like 9 or 10. The hope is something will dump into this bowl. I'll be able to put it to bed and either make a play on it this morning or mark the location and make a play on it this afternoon. So either way, I'm about to do a shitload of glassing, and I'll make an update if anything interesting happens. Okay, morning sit is over. Ended up turning up a couple does, and then near the end of the morning I found a bachelor group of 3 bucks, all super small, 1.5 year old type deal, little dink bucks, couple spike forks. So I'm gonna go meet Ryan back at the truck, and I'm not sure what the game plan is for the rest of the morning. May rip back to town and grab some more fuel. 10 to 2 is pretty dead. If he's found something that's worth making a play on in the afternoon, we might take it easy for the middle of the day. If he hasn't, we'll probably drive around and see what we can turn up. But I'll chat with him when we get back to the truck and make a decision and see what's gonna go on. Okay, so we ripped back to town, had a little bit of a break, had some lunch, had a quick nap, and now we're back out. Basically, you spend the afternoon kind of walking this whole big coulee system, and if we run out of coulee, we're gonna bounce over and glass for a buck that Ryan saw in the morning, but most likely we'll spend the rest of the day trying to kind of still hunt this coulee and see if we can turn up a buck. So hopefully we get something. So we spotted a nice 3x4. It's not quite what we're looking for, but there's another buck bedded just below him. So we've come up and around, and we're gonna take a look and see how he looks. turned up another couple bucks, both of them on the smaller end of the spectrum. One a 3x4, one a 4x4, both in like maybe like the high 130s type of deal. Definitely not a buck you want to go after in this particular area. So yeah, maybe an hour left of daylight. Fingers crossed. Day 2, no stocks so far, and no real shoot-a-buck so far. So just gotta keep on working. All right, folks, welcome to the morning of day 3 here in the frozen tundra of Alberta. It's fucking cold this morning, but it's okay. We're having a great morning. Set up in a new location. Been glassing kind of off of these crop fields into these coulees, and this coyote just kind of lit up, and I was able to spot a buck, and he looks really nice, like big wide frame, looks like he's got a lot of mass. It was still not super light out, so it was hard to tell, but definitely a buck worth making a play on. So he dropped into a coulee, and I made a point, and I didn't see him come back out. So there's a good chance he's still in there. I'm gonna keep glassing. I know Jeff turned up a couple other bucks as well. So it's looking to be the best day that we've had so far of the trip, so right on. Okay, so here's the deal. Kept glassing for another couple hours. Didn't see anything super interesting. So we're about to go make a play on the original buck that I put to bed just after daybreak. So I have a pretty good feeling where he's bedded. So we're going to take this long swooping circuit to get around behind him, and then hopefully drop down on the coulee right on top of where he is. So we'll see how she goes. All right, well, that was super frustrating. We just spent like an hour and a half making this big circuit, playing the wind, staircasing the coulee, doing everything right. And this fucking asshole hunter comes in out of nowhere, totally disregards the wind, essentially walks right through the guts of the coulee, kind of fucks our whole play. All right, there's still a few hours left in the day, so we're gonna try and round up another play. Starting to get fucking frustrated. Okay, it has been an absolute shit show of an afternoon. It's snowing these like sideways, eye-stinging shit pellet, sleet, horse shit fucking nonsense. Gets cold as fuck. There have been deer around, but it's like so hard to glass them that you end up bumping them more often than finding them. Anyways, all that horse shit aside, just found a bedded buck. Good news, he's bedded. Bad news, he's with 7 does. I seem to have a somewhat reasonable path to get up on top of them and up behind, like with the direction that the wind is blowing, so they shouldn't smell me. It's a bit of a trek and it's a bit of a fucking gong show, but a play is better than no play, no matter how shitty the play may be. So, just gonna fucking give it my all, hope for the best. All right, well, that was the closest we've got yet. And I actually had a marginal shot, but the buck wasn't nearly as big once I got up close to him, and I decided not to take it. So while I was hiking over, they actually moved back onto a slightly different part of the face. My stalk still went pretty decent. A doe or two peeked out, but I was able to kind of evade them. And then the wind just died. Like, it's been howling all day northeast. It just died. Maybe 2-3 minutes, and then it just starts swirling. And then all of a sudden I see a doe's head and another doe's head, and I'm like, they fucking winded me. So I tried my best. I knocked an arrow just in case. And kind of mini herd, like 7 does and 1 buck, come up and stop on the far face across the canyon from me. And I had the buck at 68 meters, which is 8 meters further than ideal. But in good circumstances, I'd take that shot. But his rack, he was inside his ears. He didn't have a lot of mass. He was just a younger deer. And so I didn't want to risk it. And the winds were still swirling, so it was a little bit unpredictable. But hey man, at least we got a stalk, and at least we're hunting, you know? Day 3, and that's the first like real live action we've had so far. So still got 3 more days, still got a bit of light left this afternoon. See if we can scratch up another play here and make a game plan for tomorrow. Keep on keeping on. All right, welcome to the morning of day 4. Really good morning so far. Hiked into this knife ridge I was on 2 days ago in the dark. It's cold today, but the wind has died down, which is actually a deficit for me because it's going to make putting a stalk that much more difficult. I was able to find a nice buck, nice typical 4-point, a little bit wider than the ears. Definitely a shooter after what I've seen for the last 3 days. So I'm doing my best to keep him in the glass. He's with 5 or 6 does, so it's not super difficult because even when he disappears, I can usually see the lead or the followed doe. So the goal is I'm just going to sit on him until I can put him to bed, and then I'll pull out of here, and hopefully he'll bed up near one of the coulee walls, and I'll be able to make a play on him later on in the afternoon. Okay, here's the deal. Morning worked out fairly good. I was able to stay on the buck until he bedded, and he's actually in a visible location, which is great. It should be a fairly workable spot too. The only issue is, further up the hill, there's 2 more does bedded on the path of my final approach. And if I take that route, I'm going to bump them down and towards that buck. So I'm playing with a couple ideas. 1 would be try to find an alternate route. 2 would be to come in from the backside, bump the does away, and then back out and come in my initial route. That's a bit risky, and I don't really like it. Anyways, I'll see what Ryan thinks when he picks me up. Maybe we can come up with a better plan together. And then depending on what he found this morning, we'll either make this play in the next couple hours, or we might wait until early afternoon, closer to when he's likely to stand up. Either way, at least we got a play to make. And a decent morning, so here we go. So as usual, nothing goes to fucking plan. Pulled out of that last coulee, drove up to a hilltop, glassed back down into the coulee, coyotes came through. Blew out my buck. Luckily enough, Ryan found another buck, so we're over there now. Same coulee system we were on yesterday, mid-afternoon. So, same deal as always. Stalk in, see if we can make a play. Here's the deal. We hiked down into the coulee. We found a really nice buck, but he's got 2 does, and they're situated in such a way that we can't make a play. And there's a buck in the far coulee who also has a doe situated in a really shitty way. So we're just gonna wait it out and see what happens. here's the deal. We have a bedded sleeping buck, essentially on the side of a cliff in a bowl. But I can hike along a game trail and get behind one ridge. Theoretically, I should be able to peek over that ridge and see down into the bowl where he is. So I'm just about to drop all my gear and make a go for it. Fuck. I don't know what happened there. I felt like I took my time. I even stopped and had like 10 deep breaths before I closed the last 100 yards. One thing I didn't anticipate was how small this bowl was. You know, it looked more like 100, 150 yards across from on the other side. You get here and it's like, that would have been a 20-yard shot if he was still sitting there. So I don't know if I just made too much noise. I don't know if the wind swirled last minute, but he definitely didn't see me. He definitely didn't see me. Fuck, all right. Gotta go try and find another one. All right, it's the morning of day 4, and I have not filmed shit because it's insanely cold. We've just been glassing off this knob for the last 2.5 hours. I can't feel my fingers or my toes. We think we have a bedded buck, so we're gonna go make a little play. At the very least, we gotta get moving because it's just so cold. Anyways, seen a lot of bucks this morning, all pretty marginal, nothing super exciting. This one is a little bit bigger than average, and it's the only play we got. So we're gonna try and close the distance and see how she goes. All right, so here's the deal. We're back at the truck.
I tried to leave the GoPro on for the stalk. It's so goddamn cold. GoPro shut off after like 30 seconds. So essentially what happened was stalk went really, really good as it could go. Crept in super slow, super quiet. We didn't know it. We had to be sub 20, maybe sub 15 yards. And where the buck was bedded was he was a little further left than we thought, and he was closer to the hill than we thought. We never even got a chance to see antlers. I don't think there's a whole lot different than we could do. I think you need stronger winds, which seems like an ironic thing to say, or a counterintuitive thing to say, but you need something to deaden the noise, because no matter how slow you go, there's going to be a slight crunch as you go through the snow. Anyways, he blew out. He was a damn good looking buck. So yeah, Jeff apparently spotted some other bucks going to some coulees this morning, so we're gonna have a bite of lunch to eat, and then we're gonna head over there and hopefully make a play for this afternoon.
All right, so it's the end of day 6, and I thought I should do a little wrap-up video because I didn't film shit today, essentially. 3 main reasons for that. Number 1, cold as fuck. To the point where camera gear wasn't working. I would turn the GoPros on, and 5 seconds later, they would shut off. So yeah, not much you can do about that. Number 2, shit starts getting pretty monotonous. Like, I don't know how many times I can turn to the camera and say, we found a buck, we're gonna go after him, show a little GoPro footage, he blows out before I get 300 yards from him. You do that over and over and over again, and it's like, I just don't know how much more interesting I can possibly make this. And number 3, when I get to the last day or 2 of a hunt and I haven't been successful yet, I get pretty focused to the detriment of filming. And it's like the last thing I want to do is worry about filming something when I should be worried about actually hunting. So this is not an apology. This is an explanation. That's why there's very little filming today and potentially very little filming tomorrow. It's been an extraordinarily tough hunt. Have not been finding very many big bucks. Really only had one good stalk on a big buck so far, and that was the one this morning. And that was a tough stalk. We didn't see exactly where he bedded, and it's really tough to close the distance when you don't know exactly what the distance is you're trying to close or where the final target is. One more day tomorrow, the last 5 days in a row, and that's get up early, get out in the dark, glass all morning, try to put a buck to bed, and then make a play on him in the afternoon. Hasn't really worked out that great so far, but maybe tomorrow will be the day. So all you can do is get up and keep on hunting. So that's what I'll do. All right, boys and girls, well, that is it. We've just wrapped up another hunt. I filmed nothing on the last day of the hunt. Same reasons as I mentioned in my last little update, the weather, the monotony of it all, and just really wanting to focus on trying to get it done. You know, it's interesting. I've mentioned this on other videos as well. I really enjoy these hunts that are a far drive from home because I get a chance to kind of process everything that went on during the hunt and kind of how I feel about it and how I sit with it on the drive home. Because already today, I feel much different about the hunt than I did yesterday. In fact, if you'd asked me yesterday, I probably would have said I was not interested in going on any more guided hunts. Now, the guide was fantastic. Jeff, the outfitter, is fantastic. I had an awesome time, but there are certain elements of hunting that I find particularly rewarding that aren't really present on a guided hunt. Like, for instance, figuring the area out. That's not really something that's your responsibility when you go with a guide. Pre-planning any type of e-scouting, not really your responsibility. And in fact can be kind of inappropriate etiquette because it's not really polite to ask a lot of things about their area because it's their area and you want to respect that because that's kind of part of their competitive advantage. And it's not really information that you have a right to when you're a client. Anyways, I'm kind of like digressing. And I realize now as I'm driving home, these were kind of things that my mind was coming up with because I was pissed off that I wasn't able to get it done. So I was nitpicking things about the hunt that I didn't like. But now that I've had a day to sit with it, here's the fact of the matter. I was unsuccessful on this hunt because of my lack of skill as a bow hunter. Period. There were two, out of all the like semi-opportunities I had, there were two very real opportunities where I could have closed the deal, and I failed on both of them. And I can come up with a bunch of excuses as to why that happened. The wind shifted, or I stepped on something, or, you know, the weird spidey sense of desert mule deer, whatever. I could come up with all. The bottom line is, a bow hunter with more experience and a higher level of skill would have had a higher likelihood of closing the deal in those two opportunities. And for anybody that hunts, when you're going on a week-long hunt, even one good opportunity is sometimes all you can expect. To be graced with two good opportunities, I mean, man, that's all I can ask for. And I blew it. I got close. You know, it was a big win for me to get sub 20 yards on cagey mule deer like this twice, and one was a big buck. Now, unfortunately, that's the one where the weather shut the GoPro off, or you would have seen this guy bounding off. He was so big that when he kind of jumped away, every time he landed, I felt the ground. Boom, boom, boom. And he had this big, giant rack, 4x4 typical, gorgeous deer. And it was probably 12 to 14 yards away when he bounced away. Didn't see us, for whatever reason. Not going to get into the details. But anyways, so I failed, but I'm okay with it, because here's why I'm okay with it. I have a plan. I'm not done with these deer, and I'm not done with hunting in Alberta, but I need to get better. And to get better, I need more experience. I need to go on more hunts. I need to fail more. I need to succeed more. I need to hang out more with people who are better than I am. There's a laundry list of things, and I know what these things are that I need to do. And there's something about having a rational explanation for your failure that makes it easier to accept. Like, I'm okay with it. I'm just not good enough yet. Great. That's a perfect opportunity to get better. And I think this hunt did a really good job of highlighting some of my weaknesses. I focused a lot on certain elements of hunting. I'm phenomenal in the backcountry. My fitness is great. I'm a competent shot with a bow. But like stalking, I don't have a ton of experience stalking, and I need to get more experience stalking. So with all that being said, my true passion is backcountry hunting. That's what I love the most. It's got the most elements that I'm truly, deeply passionate about, and I think it's kind of where I tend to shine the most. So, next up on the list is solo BC goat in February. In a lot of ways, this is going to be the ultimate test of kind of my backcountry skill set that I've been able to put together over the years. The middle of winter, it's a very challenging hunt. It's a very technical hunt. There's going to be a lot of snow. Got to bring snowshoes and crampons, a whole bunch of other stuff. So that's not until February. We're just wrapping up October now. I'm going to do my best to have some review content in the interim, and I'm also going to try and do some prep content for the goat hunt, because I think it's a really unique hunt. I'm going to be using some gear I've never used before, so I'm going to try and go through that and share some of the learnings. So, as always, thank you for tuning in, and I'll do my best to bring more content your way. Cheers.